Hello and welcome to Picture Astrology. In this quick video, we will look at some of the example charts to explain why Rahu and Ketu are known as karmic grahas. And as you know, in the first part of this video, we have already seen the reasoning behind using the word karmic only for Rahu and Ketu and not for other planets, although other planets also shows karma. And in this video, we will see some simple examples, and I will also talk briefly about some comments which our friends have put in under the first part of this video. So in the last video we saw in details about few reasons why Rahu and Ketu are karmic grahas, and one of them was that Rahu, especially out of these two, shows your desire, and desire is actually the glue which holds karma together. In your karmic balance, your karmas is what is responsible for keeping your physical body and physical world together. In a very simple turn or a rough way, we can say that if karma becomes zero, then you attain emancipation or moksha. And the glue or the karma holds you only when you have desires, which is representative of Rahu for sure. And this is the reason why Rahu is many times equated as something representing the things which you need to accomplish or do in this life. Now, these are not simple things, okay? These are things which are very dada, extremely important to go through in this life. And as I have been stressing a lot in the last video also, that karmic doesn't mean bad, okay? Most people have this tendency that every time they hear anything karmic, negative images comes in. Like one of the friend put in comments about Venus and Ketu in D1, D10, how bad it is. No, it's not always bad. It could be good too. It's just that the experiences shown by those planets are something which you cannot avoid in this life. Now, coming back to some simple real life examples about duties of Rahu to be fulfilled in this life. Let's look at a very famous incident between Swami Vivekananda and his Guru Ramakrishna Paramhansa. Ever since Vivekananda met Ramakrishna, his intense desire was to experience the peak of yoga, the samadhi. He always wanted to experience the supreme bliss, and he used to constantly inquire to him about this. And one day Ramakrishna suddenly asked Vivekananda to sit in meditation in front of him, and he gently tapped on his head. And it is said that that was a moment when Vivekananda in that life experienced the bliss of samadhi. But that was only for a moment. Ramakrishna immediately withdrew Vivekananda from that experience, and when Vivekananda almost pleaded him as to why he did that, Ramakrishna actually told him that he would hold this memory of samadhi from Vivekananda's active consciousness, and that he would regain it only when he has done the work of his present incarnation. And when he has achieved or completed the work of this life, then only this memory of experiencing supreme bliss will return to him. And he said that if he doesn't do that, and Vivekananda realizes who he really is, then he wouldn't stay here in this material world, in this physical body, and he will leave that immediately. So what was that karma which hold such an evolved being as Vivekananda in this physical form? Let's just see the chart of Vivekananda and see the position of Rahu. Rahu here is in the 12th house in the sign of Scorpio, which is lorded by the planet Mars. Mars is placed in the 5th house in Aries sign, which is Mars's own sign. And now let's quickly see the influences which are present on this planet Mars, and also the houses which Mars influences. Now, without really giving explanation of every single astrological component here, but if you simply see 5th house of knowledge and the planet Mars, which is not just the lord of 5th house but also 12th house, in a fiery sign is invariably associated with logic and a fiery sense of passion, aspected by Jupiter. And at the same time, Mars having an aspect on the 8th house, 11th house of big name, big fame, and as well as the 12th house of unknown foreign lands. And in a nutshell, if you see Vivekananda, a man from a slave country, India at that time was under foreign occupation for almost about 400 plus years. A man from a colonized nation in late 19th and early 20th century spread the knowledge of that land, the Vedantic knowledge, around the world. He actually traveled extensively throughout US, Europe, and many great minds, great scientists like Nikola Tesla, etc. They were virtually huge followers of him. He has had great impact on their psyche and thinking. And if you look at the history of mankind, there is hardly any other example like Vivekananda, who has taken the knowledge of a land slaved and colonized for such a long period throughout the world. Given those circumstances, the work done by Vivekananda is literally out of this world. And until that objective was achieved, until the Lord of Rahu's work was completed by Vivekananda, he was literally forced to stay in this world. And he eventually left his mortal body somewhere in his 30s, late 30s. But by then, as I just said, he has traveled far and wide and expounded the Vedantic knowledge to a large part of the modern world. And one quick thing, as you can probably observe, that there was a certain compulsiveness or forced nature in this act of Vivekananda, where pretty much Ramakrishna forced him to do that. And that is also one of the aspects when Rahu is in some ways associated with Saturn, which in this case there is an aspect. And we will talk more about it when we talk about Saturn-Rahu combination in the coming videos. Now another extremely interesting example of Rahu or Lord of Rahu literally keeping the body together in a very spiritual chart is that of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa himself. Now he was a Siddha yogi, literally devoid of any physical desires. But some desire and some karma is necessary for keeping the body together. And there is this great story that Sri Ramakrishna kind of grew a fondness for food, for meal. So much to an extent that during certain time he used to get up from group chanting or group spiritual philosophical discussions and check out in the kitchen as to what was being cooked on that day. And due to this, one of his disciples sort of got a bit uncomfortable and actually asked Sri Ramakrishna that this behavior of his, that almost a compulsive nature for food, is kind of quite unbecoming of the great sage that he was. And Sri Ramakrishna actually smiled to him and said that, literally to keep this physical body intact and with the kind of no karmic bondage which Sri Ramakrishna had, he must have some kind of burning desire to keep his consciousness attached to this body. And food or the daily lunch and dinner was something, or the longing for that was something which was literally keeping his consciousness in the body or literally keeping the body alive. And he also said to him that the days he observed him getting uninterested in food and not really caring about what he is eating, then he should understand that the time for him to leave this physical world is coming close. And quite unsurprisingly, here you have Rahu in the second sign of Taurus and Lord of Rahu Venus in the second house. Now in a highly evolved spiritual chart, Lord of Rahu is simply showing the burning desire which is keeping the soul attached to the body for time being. Now in your and my chart, this Lord of Rahu can definitely show different kind of emotions, experiences and karmas which we basically have to go through. Like one of our friends has talked about Rahu being in 7th house of Aries and Mars, the Lord of Aries, in the 11th house, which would be in the sign of Leo. And Leo being the fixed sign and quite a conducive sign for Mars and in 11th house, kind of shows definite physical felicity or a lot of material success or gains, which you can say being Rahu in 7th is karmically related to your relationship or marriage. And it is quite often that the people with this placement rise well in life soon after a relationship or marriage. So this is an example where there is a lot of fixed or good karmas to be had because of placement of Rahu. Now other aspects or associations on Mars can vary it a little bit, give it different flavors and so on, but this is definitely not a negative placement. And likewise, although I have taken some simple examples of charts of highly evolved people which are in general kind of easy to interpret because their life has a very sharp and fixed focus, unlike people working in this world who want some spirituality, some physical pleasures and so on. But invariably the effects and aspects on the Lord of Rahu can give you great clues about where your Dad karmas reside. We will also see how to interpret Lord of Ketu as well. That would be in the next video in this series. So thank you friends for being with me so far, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye bye.